From Lowell, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, it's Eyes on the Watchtower with your host, Rick Farron.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome into Eyes on the Watchtower. My name is Rick Farron, and I'm your host here today, and I want to introduce to you my co-hosts, my colleagues over here, and rather than me introduce them, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chelsea Danvers. It's nice to be here on Eyes of the Watchtower. I was actually involved with the Witnesses in the past, and I'm happy to be out of it, and I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dick Borghi. I'm a former ministerial servant, and I spent 20 years in the cult known as Jehovahs Witnesses.
Well, thank you, guys. Again, I'm so glad that you could come in and tune in and watch us, Eyes on the Watchtower. And maybe you're a witness out there for the first time, listening and watching this program. But please don't turn the channel off. Stay right here and listen. Look at what goes on the other side of the track. The Watchtower is not going to give you the whole answer. They're not going to give you the whole scenario. That's what we do here at the Eyes on the Watchtower. We give you the other side of the story. Now, I just want to make a little comment here, a little mention of my wife who died, in fact, on June 21st, just this past year, 2012. And I want to thank, this is a picture of up here, in fact, and she's holding the sign. She was a real go-getter, and she wanted to expose the Watchtower. So we're continuing to do it right here on this program. And all of those that send cards in and emails and condolences, thank you very much for doing that. I really do appreciate it. Now, friends, the Jehovah's Witnesses are one of the fastest growing religions in the world today. Their ruling body, known as the Watchtower Society, claims that they have 7 million members, but they even up the ante somewhat. They say that they actually have 17 million that are attached to the organization. That is, those attending the annual memorial celebration of Christ's death. They were founded in the year 1879, and they are well known around the world for their conflicts with nations. Many of these nations, they have conflicts over concerning the flag salute and government requirements like military service. But, you know, as I was examining the Watchtower, and I was a Jehovah's Witness for 50 years of my life, but as I examined the Watchtower, I came across one of the most strange doctrines ever taught in the Watchtower Society. And they have a few strange doctrines, but today we're going to be focusing in on the doctrine of theocratic war strategy, or some also call it theocratic war doctrine. Now, you probably say to yourself, what is it? I want to ask my colleagues over here. I know Chelsea, she never been a baptized witness, but she has been involved with the Witnesses for many years. Chelsea, have you ever heard of that doctrine, theocratic war strategy?
No, I've never heard of that before.
Well, don't feel bad, Chelsea, because the mass majority of Jehovah's Witnesses have no idea what war strategy is, as they call it, but we're going to define it here today. We're going to help you understand out there, and if you're a witness, don't leave now. Like I say, you got to hear this because you're not being taught this. It's being taught to you kind of esoterically, secretively, and you have no idea what it's even all about, but we're going to tell you what it's about. And that is over the top, Dick, when you think about it. I mean, a religious organization actually telling its adherents that under certain circumstances it would be okay to lie. Now, among their unique doctrines, this prohibition, theocratic war strategy, justifies lying, and even lying in court, perjury, friends, and elsewhere. Now, I'm going to tell you a group that also practices the same practice of war strategy. It's the Aryan Brotherhood, a white supremacist group which teaches it teaches that it's appropriate to lie in order to further its interest. And they share the same teachings in common with the Watchtower. Now, the doctrine is very complex, but especially the Watchtower teaches that it is appropriate to withhold the truth from people who are not entitled to it. if it will further the Watchtower's interest. So just to break it down, make it very simple. If someone comes up to a witness, an elder or any witness, they can lie so they won't indict the Watchtower. They can actually lie to further the interest of the Watchtower organization. Now, let's take a look here. Let's go back to here's a book here. It's published by the Watchtower Society. I mean, you're probably familiar with this if you're a witness. It's called The Aid to Bible Understanding. Let's take a look at this and see if it makes some sense to you on what this strategy is all about. Now, I was a witness, like I say, for many years, but I never really read this in their own publication. But let's take a look right here on page 1061. It says here, while malicious lying is definitely condemned in the Bible, this does not mean that a person is under obligation to divulge truthful information to people who are not entitled to know. Isn't that something? So in other words, what they're saying here is if someone comes to you, and I mean there's a lot of things the Watchtower does hide, friends. There's a lot of things they don't want you to know about. But if someone comes to a witness and asks them something about the society, let's just go with shunning. Does the Watchtower organization shun people? Well, let me tell you something. Yes, they do. I mean, they're doing it to me, and they're doing it to many witnesses, including even Dick Borgie over here, simply because we left the Watchtower. But they will deny that practice even exists. They won't even call it shunning. They will call it avoidance. And they'll change the terms. They have loaded language, as we say. But, you know, the thing that I came across here, which I thought was very interesting, is, you know, a lot of people out there right now, they're probably saying to themselves, well, you know, the aid book, that's one thing. You know, that's an old publication. You know, it goes back to 1969. They're saying that's old light. Come on, Rick, you know, we have new light. That's what the Watchtower says. Well, let's take a look at this book right here. In fact, friends, the Watchtower Society still uses this book today, Insight on the Scriptures. This is like an encyclopedia. There's actually 2 volumes, Volume 1, Volume 2. This is Volume 2. But we look up under lie. Let's go right in here and look up lie according to the Watchtower's definition. And let's see what it has to say. See if I can get that here. It's right here. And what it says here on page 245 under the heading lie, while malicious lying is definitely condemned in the Bible, this does not mean that a person is under obligation to divulge truthful information to people who are not entitled to it. So what they're saying here is it's okay to lie. In other words, if you're not really, if it's a news reporter or it's someone asking questions that could be very detrimental to the Watchtower faith, then it's okay to lie to these ones and put them on notice that they're not entitled really. I mean, they'll come up with the fact that they're not entitled to know the truth anyways. So what do you, I mean, you know, as you're going over this, Dick, in Chelsea, I mean, what do you think of this? I mean, is this something that you think they're getting away with scot-free?
Well, you know, Rick, when you take an oath and you put your hand on the Bible to give testimony in court, you're asked to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. In this theocratic warfare that they have going on, you can tell the lie of omission. You don't tell the whole truth, even though you know what the whole truth is. You don't tell it. Well, a lie is a lie, and a lie comes from Satan the devil, who is the father of the lie. And this religion that calls itself the truth is just the opposite. It's false.
I'm glad you said that, Dick. In Chelsea, I mean, you had no idea this even existed. And if you went up to, I know you have some friends and relatives that still are Jehovah's Witnesses, but if you went up to them and said, you know, you guys are really cruel and you really shun people, what reaction do you think they'd have to that, Chelsea?
Well, I think that they would probably deny it and just say, well, we have to do what we have to do because of, you know, they have to follow the Watchtower Society and their rules. So, but unfortunately, you know, it's a shame that what it says in that book about lying, it's terrible.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, if you're an honest-hearted person and you're a member of a Christian faith, I mean, you know that lying is wrong. But here we have a religious organization, and I don't, friends, I've always said this on my radio program as well as here, I'm going to start saying it, that the Watchtower really isn't a religion. They are a cult. In fact, the Watchtower is nothing more than a business masquerading as a religion. Now, you might ask, well, who, in goodness' name's sake, would ever come up with this strategy, this war strategy, war doctrine, if you prefer? Well, I had to go back. I did some research. The second president of the Watchtower Society, his name was Joseph Rutherford. They call him Judge Rutherford. And he wrote a book back in 1936. This is the book, friends. It's called Riches. And the reason why I like to bring some of these publications into Eyes on the Watchtower is rather than just read from a photocopy or a piece of paper, I'm showing you the real book. And what I want to do is I want to read you, this is where the war doctrine really got its start. And it's on page 177 of this 1936 publication, Riches, published by the Watchtower Organization. It says, a lie is a false statement made by one another, let's go back. A lie is a false statement made by one to another, one, who is entitled to hear and to know the truth, in which false statements tend to work injury to the other. A false statement made for the purpose of deceiving and working injury to another is a deliberate and malicious act. Well, you say to yourself, well, how does that come into play here? Well, you see that the wording that was used in this publication is showing that a truth is only entitled to be given to one who is working in the favor of the Watchtower. If someone is not entitled to the truth, then you don't have to give it to them. So right there in 1936, as we see the first inference brought up in the Watchtower, in the book Riches, of theocratic warfare. Well, it's a unique thing. Like I say, there's very few organizations that do work with war strategy, including the Aryan Brotherhood. But the thing that we have to also bring into mind here is, how does the Watchtower really use this war doctrine to their advantage in court? And a lot of people are totally unaware of the fact that millions of Jehovah's Witnesses leave the organization every year. In fact, right now, friends, I can sincerely tell you that there are as many former Jehovah's Witnesses as there are active Jehovah's Witnesses. So every year, there's hundreds of thousands of witnesses that leave. Now, I have to just also clarify this. What happens when a person leaves the Watchtower? Well, we talked about it a little earlier, they become shunned. They're disfellowshipped. In other words, if you start questioning their doctrine, you have a problem with their teachings, and you question the elders about it, you will be disfellowshipped and you'll be shunned. What that means is your relatives and friends will not be able to speak with you. And that's a very hurtful thing. It can cause a lot of psychological problems in one's life. But the point that I wanted to bring out is, what happens when you are a Jehovah's Witness and you're married to a Jehovah's Witness, and now all of a sudden you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. I mean, you can imagine the strife, the turmoil that takes place in the family. So what happens in many cases, Jehovah's Witnesses, the marriage breaks up. So now what you got is you got custody problems. You've got children that have to be dealt with. So who's going to get the kids? Is it going to be the Jehovah's Witness mate, the Jehovah's Witness spouse that was a witness, or is it going to be the one that wasn't and left the Watchtower? Well, this is where the Watchtower gets very tricky and very crafty, that they actually have a booklet that's been prepared. It's called the Custody Booklet. I mean, the full name of it is called the Preparing for Child Custody Case Booklet. And what happens is, when you get that booklet, you read through it, and it's going to give you, this is the witness, it's going to give you advantage on how you can get the kids away from the non-witness. So this is an amazing thing, friends. I mean, the Watchtower prepared this booklet, and in that booklet, we'll go into it further in detail, but in this booklet, it actually It actually tells the witnesses how they should lie in court against their non-witness mate. We're going to talk a little more about that. You're going to find it very interesting. And we actually have a judge you'll see on video coming up shortly in our next segment that'll talk about how he knows the Jehovah's Witnesses do lie in court. Friends, it's a very strange doctrine. It's a doctrine that does in no way connect with Christianity. And so that's why it's even safe to say that, I mean, in the real Christian world, if you tell a lie, that is a sin. But in the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses, it is not a sin. Well, everyone, I want you to stay tuned to this telecast, and we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a short while. Well, we welcome you back to Eyes on the Watchtower. We're so glad you're joining us today, and we're learning all about Watchtower Doctrine, the esoteric doctrine, war strategy, and how the Watchtower actually gets away with lying to people that aren't entitled to know the truth. Now, where this comes into play for them, as we were saying before the break, is in court cases revolving around child custody. That they have an actual booklet, and the booklet is entitled Preparing Your Child in Child Custody Cases. In fact, it's a booklet that's given to witness parents and helps them to be able to deal with getting the children to be raised as Jehovah's Witnesses rather than be raised as little apostates, so to speak. So anyways, let me just go a little bit on into this somewhat. Watchtower legal battles have become a common ground. I mean, many participants in court have been challenging the Watchtower for custody of their children, but sad to say, many lose because they don't know how prepared the witness mother or father is when they come into the courtroom. See, the war strategy, or this pamphlet, Preparing the Child for Custody, is designed for their internal use in helping members prepare to discuss custody matters in divorce hearings and encourage witness children under oath to present a distorted view of opportunities that a witness child has to assume in the world that they live. Now, we all know there are examples, all of us witnesses know the Watchtower Society, they do have what they call a school brochure that all witnesses have, and they give it to the teachers in their school to put the teachers on notice what the witnesses can do and what the witnesses can't do. Friends, let me just tell you right out front, Jehovah's Witnesses